Okay, that should fix the audio issue. Let me know now if you can hear me. That's kind of lame. We're just going to get a late start on this show. Just testing here. Yeah, that's kind of lame. Okay, good. We got sound. Cool. We're just going to get a late. Okay, welcome everybody to Unveil Paranormal Live. Oh my goodness. What a mess. Okay, guys, so the thing here is I was messing around with TikTok the first like 5 minutes trying to get that audio to work, and then I come over here to find out the audio over here is not working. So it sounds like on my face, like, oh, that's weird. Okay. All right, so now you guys should all be able to hear me. We can hear you now. Thank you for confirmation. Okay, so TikTok is a no-go. We're not going live on TikTok tonight because of all that. So I apologize for those of you that didn't hear me at all, but I am here and I am loud and I'm proud and probably a little annoying. Hey, welcome from Canada. I appreciate you. Okay, guys. So let's talk a little bit about what had going on this weekend. So this weekend, some of you, hopefully many of you, were able to come out to Unity 7 this weekend. It was at Miami County Fairgrounds and in Peru, Indiana, and it was fun as always. I love going just to network with people and getting to meet people that I've never met before and seeing old friends and all that stuff. So I spent my weekend doing that. It is spooky season. Yay. Everybody loves this time of year, it seems like, in the paranormal field. I've only met a few people that prefer Christmas over Halloween, but most people like Halloween. So happy early Halloween to everyone. I will say I am going to enjoy my Halloween. Typically, I stay home and I pass out candy to the kids, but this year I'm going investigating. So I will be at a ghost hunt Halloween evening, and I'm very much looking forward to that. It's at a location I've been to several times, going with friends. So it should be a great time. Probably will go live for some of it. I know they're going to go live for some of it to share our little adventure we're going to be on. But definitely, if you're going ghost hunting, let me know. Let me know if you're going to be enjoying adventuring off this weekend and to discover some ghosts. That would be awesome. We have a couple things on the I guess agenda. I don't know. I do have to tell you guys about my crazy dream though before the show's over, because it was insane last night. First things first, let's see. So the show is very disorganized right now because of that little hiccup at the beginning. I need to do your tarot card reading for the week, but where the heck is my tarot deck? This is awesome, guys. I know where it's at. I took it with me to Unity this weekend. Let me go grab it. I'll be right back, guys. I got it. Okay. Do a tarot card pull. I'm going to start with that, and then we're going to talk about dreams. Specifically, we're going to talk about dream meanings for everyday objects and everyday buildings. And I'm going to give you kind of what the world interprets it as, and then I'm going to give you my interpretation. So, why is there... Okay. Just seeing a notification popped up. You are feeling threes again. Oh, I know that. There's one of my threes. I would, if I gave you a number, Adam, I think you would probably be energy of 1. That's what I would think. I kind of feel like your friend that was at the event would be energy number 3. So we need to find who out is number 2. So I just feel like there's something with 3s with you too. So even though there's only 2 of you. All right, guys, I got my tarot deck. This is the only, actually, I have 2 decks. I don't know where my witch's deck is. Should we pull that? Because actually, I might know where that's at. I think I know exactly where that's at. Maybe we should do the witch. I think, okay, we're going to see, we're really delayed today. We're going to do the witch's deck because it's almost Halloween. So I'm going to grab that one. So the witch's tarot deck that I have came in like this whole like big box from Ellen Dugan. I've had this one. I think this was my first deck. And this one of like the standard tarots is the second deck I got. And I think I got the standard because, you know, I wanted to see. I know some people collect tarot decks because there's so many different artists and different designs and stuff that you could have. So there's a variety that gets picked up. Okay. We're going to do a witch's tarot, and I keep mine in a little black bag. These are kept in a little kitty cat bag, like a satin. And these are actually worn out a little bit more. You can see they're bent. So, all right. So let's see how our week is going to go. Let's see how the rest of our week is going to go. Because we all of us that have the standard daily job know our Mondays and Tuesdays are kind of crap. We spend way too much time at work and not enough time at life. And so I kind of want to see kind of the rest of the week. It's almost like our brains don't get caught up with how things are going for the week until we get about halfway through the week. And then we're like, okay, it's going to be this kind of week. So let's see how the rest of our week's going to go. And just as a disclaimer, I'm not a tarot card reader. I just do this for fun, and I wing it by using my intuition. And this is for the collective, which means take what resonates with you and what doesn't, and leave what doesn't. That's what they say. That's what the tarot card readers say on all my reels and TikToks. So I'm going to say what they say. All right. So, all right. Okay. We've got the 6 of Pentacles. So this is what the 6 of Pentacles is. Now, again, this is for the collective. Take what resonates with you. Leave the rest behind. And this is for like everybody watching right now at this moment. The very interesting thing about this one right here, this 6 of Pentacles right up here, for some reason it made me think of a headstone, which I think it's just the placement of it makes me think of that, which makes me think that I think some of you need to slow down. Y'all are going through life a little too quickly. Getting anxious for upcoming stuff, but we need to slow down. It's not like a dead stop slow down. It's just kind of a reminder, like, you know, you go through, you pass by a cemetery, and it kind of gives you that little bit of a reminder that, you know, life is kind of short, and one day you may be there, you know, depending on how things go for you. Also, I want to point out here that, so take your time this weekend, especially, you know, with the holiday. It's not the biggest holiday, but it's a huge holiday. Take your time, really enjoy those moments that you have this weekend with family and friends. This will I know it's not Christmas holiday, but it is definitely a holiday that still needs to be acknowledged and still is enjoyed by many. And this green kind of makes me think of luck. So I think some people might have some luck coming, along with, I know pentacles are supposed to be kind of a financial symbolism. So I think take your time, make really smart decisions this weekend, and keep I guess if you were to, this is going to sound kind of morbid, but if you were to, uh, you know, die tomorrow, what kind of choices would you make? So really decide based off of that. Like, don't make any rash decisions. Don't go out away from your path and put yourself into a position that you don't want to leave behind as a legacy to the children or to your family. So keep that in mind. So that's how you should look at this weekend. That's how you should stay focused. And So yeah, that's my reading, guys, for the week. Now, we're going to talk about dreams. I did some preparation for our dream chat. So obviously I wanted to start doing live discussions because I want to discuss with you, the audience, about your dreams, my dreams, and let's interpret it. So I'm going to start off, since this is only the third show, we're going to just talk about some general dream symbols. So things that people see all the time in their dreams, and they kind of just brush it away, disregard it, whatever. Because these are things we see in everyday life. So we don't think much of it. So say that you dream and you don't have any snakes in your house, but you have a dream about snakes. So that sticks in your head. But what you didn't see is where you were when you dreamed about those snakes. Were you in a building you're familiar with? Were you were you sitting on a sofa nearby? Where were you at? What was around you? Not just, I see snakes. I'm a vivid dreamer, a lucid dreamer, and I remember my dreams very well. I will share that with you hopefully on the second half of this because it's a very vivid, crazy dream, and I want to make sure I get to it. I just dreamed it last night. And I was worried because before I went to bed, I was like, man, I don't have any really cool dreams for this week. And I woke up 6:30 this morning, grabbed my book, and just started writing. It took me about 3 pages to write this dream. So definitely would love to share that with you. But first, let's talk about noticing things around you other than the big scary spider, the scary clown, the big, what else? Specifically, like you're falling. Well, what's around you when you're falling? You're falling off a cliff, you're falling off a building. Why are you falling off a certain building or a certain area? Or let's pretty much talk about the environment. So I have some really cheesy looking slides here. I literally started creating these and I'm like, I just don't feel like doing all the leg work. Like, I don't feel like making them fancy little slideshow. This isn't for work. This isn't a presentation. That's like, oh, can I do it this way? Let me see. Hey, there I am. So I'm down here at the bottom. Cool. I didn't know if I could do that. That's cool. We could probably, no, can't do it that way. Might just have to stick with this. Okay, we'll stick with that. So at least I'm not hidden behind it. So guys, let's talk about some common objects, and I'm going to give you some examples. So some of you aren't very lucid dreamers. Good ways to start remembering your dreams is to start waking up and writing them down while you're halfway asleep. I know that's hard for a lot of people to do, especially if it's a work day. Me personally, I wake up, I roll out of bed, I log into work because I work remote. It's what I do. It's a very bad, nasty habit I have. But like today, I woke up, I had to write this down. So always be aware of your surroundings. Absolutely, yes. Be aware of your surroundings, even if you are sleeping. So because those typical common objects can mean something. Let me grab my notes here. This is my dream journal that I've been writing in. Let's talk about some of the common objects. So everyday objects. pretty much what you're doing when you're deciphering through your dreams is you can take a couple different approaches. The approach I like to take when interpreting my dream is, what does that object do in real life? So for a furniture table, tables, I'm thinking dining room table, I'm thinking coming together, I'm thinking community, I'm thinking gathering. That's what I'm thinking of. If you look at it as like a bedside table, it's support. It holds your clutter. Clutter we'll talk about in a minute. It holds your valuables even, which is listed there. So what does it do? So generally speaking, like a table, I like to think of a table as if I'm walking into a room and if I'm in my dream and I'm walking into a room with only a table, what is that table going to represent to me? Well, it's going to feel, first I'm going to see how it feels. Yes, you can have feelings in dreams because we wake up with feelings, right? From our dreams, we're either scared, we feel comfort, whatever. You're going to wake up with some type of feeling within your dream and while you dream. So I like to think of a table as gathering. I generally speaking, I think of tables as dining room tables. We've always had one growing up. I don't have one right now at this moment. I got to get a new one, but I've always had one here in my own home, and it's where I gather with my family and friends. And typically, it makes me feel homey, happy, you know. So you have to take these objects and put it in your real world, and how does it make you feel? Yes, even the littlest things like a pen, you know, creativity, needing to, you know, draw, artists, stuff like that. Depends on what you use pens for on the regular basis, right? Mine is, I like lists, I like notes. I am an organized person. I am not hardly an artist at all. That's why everything you'll see is always going to be digital, because that's how I work. I cannot draw even a good stick figure. So sofas and beds are kind of the same. We relax in our bed, we relax in our sofa. It's a comfort thing. So if you see those, it's kind of you walking into a place of comfort. Keys are a common object that I want to talk about because they're slightly different. So keys are kind of like not just a physical key, but a solution, a problem solving, or it's a way to discover something new. So if you're using a key, you say that you've used a key on a box you've never used before, you're discovering that box. You're discovering what's within those contents. You're discovering a person. Say that you meet somebody new and a key shows up. They may be the answer to your prayers, or they may be the resolution to your problem, or it just may be symbolizing you're about to discover this new person and who they are. So you can interpret keys a couple ways. Valuables. Everybody loves a dream with money. Everybody loves it. I'm gonna get a quick drink. I did have KFC tonight, so I'm drinking sweet tea. I tried to take a nap after work, and I just couldn't, and I had a craving for some like fried chicken, and that's really all we have where I'm at, so I went with it. Let's talk about valuables. Money, 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 money. Everybody loves dreams of money. People love waking up knowing that, oh my gosh, they got this prosperity, or they felt wealthy in their dream, or maybe it inspires them to go and play the lottery. Whatever it may be, people love to have money. So really, money and jewelry, those are kind of more of a self-worth, self-reflecting object in your dream. Yes, no, maybe it could be a manifestation dream that you're working towards, and so that you can win big. We all are dreaming of winning big, right? One day, whether it be because you're a materialistic person or because you value freedom. I'm one of those who I would love to be in a position where all I have is freedom of time. I don't care about stuff as much as I do of my time. My time is more valuable to me. So it's really about self-worth. Kind of like, it can also reflect like money and jewelry, like a new beginning, as in like, say that you're currently kind of in prosperity, not prosperity, sorry. gosh, I forget the word I was going to use. Not doing well financially, and you're struggling, and you find yourself dreaming that you're living this whole nother life. It could reflect that you value yourself higher than your current life, and this is the goal that you want to work towards. And it's just reflecting to show you what it could be like if you get there. So different ways. The last thing I'm going to talk to you on this slide is clutter. Clutter, I hate clutter personally. It drives me nuts in real life. So to me, clutter is a bad thing in dreams. I would get very anxious in my dream. I would get overwhelmed in my dream if I was surrounded by clutter. This is me personally. So whatever resonates with you. Some people in life find clutter comforting. I lived with somebody who loved it. They loved having all their stuff everywhere where they can see it out and open right in front of them. They loved it. I could not stand it. Personally, I just don't like clutter. If I had the time and energy, my whole house would be organized with all of those bins and envelopes and everything you could think of, because I cannot stand clutter. But clutter, to me personally, would be an aspect of chaos, disorganization. Usually clutter is associated for most people, regardless of how you look at it in life, as an emotional symbolism. So however you feel when you are interacting with the clutter around you, and the dream is going to give you an emotional response. Typically people won't, again, people don't think of emotions in dreams, but people have emotions in dreams. That's why we wake up feeling a certain way. One thing I've also noticed the more I analyze my dreaming is I tend to wake up with music in my head. So I might actually start documenting the songs I have in my head, because I never noticed it until I started doing the dream journal. And almost every morning I wake up with a song in my head, which is interesting because I don't recall ever hearing the music in my head while I sleep. And like I said, I'm a very vivid dreamer. I had tons of dreams from here in last week, but I only jotted down last night's dream because it was worth talking about on the show. So, all right, guys, we're going to talk about another really common thing, and then I'm going to tell you about my dream, okay? So the other really common thing that people don't really pay much attention to in their dreams, but they have, are buildings. And there are the way we look at our buildings in our dreams can be very different. The way I'm going to interpret it could be different for you. So again, when you're interpreting dreams, you want to look at it as how would I feel in real life? So I'm going to start with, to me, the easiest one, hospital, because that's where I've probably spent the least amount of my time, is in a hospital. I've not really been admitted. Some people may have been, had extensive care in a hospital. I've never really had that except for when I had my children. This is the only time I was ever admitted. And of course when I was born, but I don't remember that. So hospitals are generally speaking, associated with healing and kind of finding a solution to our discomfort. So things in life that are bothering us. So if you're feeling one way about a situation, you walk into a hospital in your dream and you're like, okay, I feel okay in here. Some people associate hospitals with a bad thing. So it's not only that you're in the hospital that you have to interpret, you have to interpret how you're feeling, what's happening in the hospital, what's not happening in the hospital. Say that you get into the hospital and you can't find a doctor. So you have to really pull apart these dreams when you're trying to figure them out. Sorry, it's a loud noise outside. I don't know what it is this late. One thing is that you can do, if you're not very good at deciphering, if you're not very good at remembering your dreams, if you want to start using some of these tactics and do some form of like kind of daydreaming meditation stuff, and just let your mind wander And I know that could be bad for, that could be really hard for a lot of people. So I do kind of think like if you get a fidget of some type and you don't really focus on the fidget, but you, I don't know, everybody's different. So for me, like, I like to meditate. I like to just stare off and like have background noise. So I don't really have to be doing anything with my hands or anything like that. But then I just kind of like, my mind just kind of wanders and then I can kind of decipher from there. A common thing about schools. Hey, thank you for sharing, Jeremy. I just seen that. I forgot to share it, so I appreciate that. Schools. So we're just going to talk about schools for a minute. School for you may have been great. School for me was, it's okay. School for me is nostalgic. So I don't know how you all feel about that. So anytime I have a dream about being back at school, to me, it's about having a social connection and being around friends and being youthful again. Usually when I'm dreaming, there's like little petty problems, but nothing major is happening when I'm dreaming about a school. So for you, depending on how school was for you, it could be a place of bullying. Unfortunately, it could be a place of discomfort for you, embarrassment. But for me personally, I really feel comfortable in most school settings in my dreams. So I don't dream about being back at school, but I do have nightmares about being back at work. Yes, work. So that's what we're going to talk about next, is we're going to talk about work buildings. I specifically am going to focus or tell you a little bit about factories and an office environment, because those are two really common places people work. Okay, my neighbor must be outside, like, running his motorcycle. I think that's what it is. That's why I keep getting distracted, like, what's that noise over there? So, all right, guys. So, when you are looking at your place of employment, so I have dreams about several different places of employment, right? So, I only worked in a factory for like 3 weeks of my life ever, which is pretty good because around where I live, all we have are factories. However, I spent 7 years working at Wendy's because, one, I actually loved that job. I was in management. It was really easy for me, really laid back. Like, I started when I was 17, worked my way up. I love that job. Today, I would still work something like that if the pay was there. But some people hate fast food. I actually enjoyed it. So I actually would have dreams about that. To me, that's a nostalgia thing. So a lot of times it's kind of weird because usually what's happening is I go to work in my dream and nobody knows what they're doing, which is kind of like how it was. So I had some great employees. I made so many great friends working there and had such a great time because that was when I was young and we'd hang out after work and all that stuff. So I wasn't like a head honcho manager. I could still hang out with my crew members. So really enjoyed that. But factories are usually, most people when they dream about factories is because they have something in their life about organized movement. So planning a trip or organizing movement, like organizing a change in life, organizing a shift. So those are some things that factories are typically associated with. Office work is typically, so if you're in an office, usually sometimes you're working on a computer, whatever, those are usually associated with mental anguish, meaning like, and factory work can be mental for sure, but office work is so tedious for in most part. So it's really about mental anguish, really working on the logistics of things, the logistics in your life, getting things to a point where the clutter and the chaos is cleared out. You know, getting the numbers. I'll see a lot of numbers when I'm in an office in my dream. Deciphering the numbers, dwindling them down to like a smaller number. It's just really weird for me. I hate when every time I start a new job, when I'm training, my mind, because, you know, we always our dreams sometimes are part of our everyday lives. So I tend to, when I start a new job and I'm learning something new, it like runs through my brain at night over and over again. So it's very obnoxious. Hold on a second, guys. My dog is outside losing his mind. So I'm letting my kiddo. Okay, there we go. All right, cool. All right, took care of that. Last thing we're going to talk about, and then I'm going to tell you about my dream, okay? Because I want to keep moving here. If you guys have any of these in your dreams, anything specifically that you want to know a symbol of, we can talk about it too, okay? All right, home. Home is the last thing I want to talk about. So here's the thing. When it comes to dreaming about home, what is home to you? A house, not just a house, but a home. All right, now, if you dream about just a house, it's one thing. But if it means something to you in real life, what does it mean? So I'm sorry that my phone keeps going off. So annoying. When you dream about a house, and it's just any old house, usually doesn't mean anything. Now, I've had dreams where I've dreamt about specific style of houses, like haunted houses. I've dreamed specific style, like European housing, row housing, lots of that. I've actually had a lot of city dreams where there's a lot of houses in rows. So those don't really mean anything to me personally. Those I have to interpret it a little bit different. But when I'm talking about home, I mean like your current house, which I don't think I've ever dreamt about a house I was living in while I was living in it. Now I've had where I was in a house that I lived in at the time while I was living in it, and it's always something like bad happens. So either somebody breaks in the house, or a spider jumps at me. I remember a very vivid dream of that in an old house I used to live in. And those dreams are like the worst because you're in the house that you live in, or you're in the bed that you live in, and then you're like, something's happening in your dream, and you think, oh my God, it's happening in real life. And it's really not. Sorry about choke. Goodness, talking too much. So, like the most recent dream I had about a house, gosh, I don't know. It's been a couple weeks since I dreamed. I actually think the last dream I had about a house that meant something to me was when I had a dream about the house I live in and somebody broke in. I have that dream a lot. And to me, when somebody breaks into a house, especially when you're currently living in it, it's kind of like an intrusion of privacy. It's kind of like letting your boundaries down, letting things go. That's pretty much what that represents. Hopefully, in real life, you don't have somebody breaking in. And I know there are stories of people who dreamt about it and it actually was happening, and they were just half asleep and didn't realize it was really happening. So that's some scary stuff. So yeah, your everyday objects, you got to pay attention to them. And just like when you're dreaming, you're like, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I had this dream where I seen like 20 snakes coming after me. Well, what kind of snakes were they? And where were you standing at? Were you running? Were you sitting? How were you feeling when they were coming towards you? Like it's so hard to think about those things because so many people don't remember their dreams, but not me. I remember mine. So, all right, you guys want to get to the fun part? The part when I tell you about my dreams. So last week we talked about my dream about the Freddy Krueger leprechaun. I don't know if y'all remember that. Freddy Krueger leprechaun did not return to any of my dreams. However, a murderer did. So that's fun. I tend to dream a lot about murder, missing people. And yes, I do watch quite a bit of crime shows. So maybe it stems from that, but we're going to tell you a little bit about my dream, guys. You guys can tell me what you think. Story time. All right, so in my dream, some of the main characters here, just so you know, we have 70-year-old James, who is our victim. We have 20 to 30-year-old killer, who is very attractive. Okay, guys, I was almost fooled in this dream. I was almost fooled. So he's an attractive guy, and we actually, our eyes locked. Like, if he was not a killer, I might have asked him out, like, not gonna lie. He was very attractive, very charismatic, kind of like, okay, it's kind of like coming across Zac Efron, but when he played Ted Bundy. Like, he appears really attractive, but you probably should stay away from him. So it was kind of like that. This guy looked a little bit different, had like curlier, like kind of longer, curlier hair, blondish. The other thing is, when I have dreams like this, I also wonder if they're real life. Oh, why do I still have that pulled up? Let's take that off there. I also wonder if they're like real life murder cases, or can I make that different? Like, yeah, let's do like that. That's not so intrusive. I'm not like so in your face. That's better. Okay, so like if they're real life murder mysteries, or missing people cases, stuff like that. So I kind of like to share these dreams just in case somebody says, "Hold on, that sounds really familiar. I think I know what you dreamt about." Because sometimes my dreams do feel very spiritual. It does feel like an actual spirit came to me. So take that as you will. But let's talk about our 70-year-old victim named James. I did get his name. And our 20, 30-year-old charismatic, very attractive murderer. So, just a little background on, well, actually, I'll tell you about him a little bit. So, here's what was happening in my dream. So, I start the dream off by I'm following around my daughter and her father, and we're heading over to my daughter's father's house. Okay, so that's where we're going. I don't really know why, because I wouldn't do that in real life, but that's where we're going. We're going over to his house. The murderer happened to live right across the street from him in this dream. So we go over to his house, and his house is like this, like, it's like a billboard front house. Like, it's not what the house really looks like. It's kind of fake looking. It's kind of weird. Like, it's like a billboard with like a fake door. So we actually have to walk around the billboard to get to the actual house. It's like they were trying to hide what the house really looks like. It was really strange. But we get back there, and I find out that I see across the street that this guy's over there, and there's police knocking on the door. But I feel, my spiritual side feels like something's back there. Like, it feels like there's a mound, a dirt mound, right? So I'm like staring over there, and then I go back over behind the little billboard building, and I'm like, there's something about that house across the street. And I know the police officer, just one guy over there knocking on the door. And I'm like, we gotta go over there. We gotta, like, I want to go see what happens, whatever. So we go back around the little billboard, and there is a 70-year-old man named James, who is deceased, standing in the yard explaining to me he was murdered. These are dreams I typically have. Like, these are dreams I will regularly have. This could be maybe one of those dreams, spiritually speaking, that are real, but maybe not. Okay, we can speculate. So James is explaining to me what happened to him, how he died. So what happened basically is the gentleman who lives in the building, or in the house across the street, James is over there visiting because they're friends. Why 70-year-old James is friends with this guy who's in his 20s, 30s? Well, I'll tell you a little bit about it. So James kind of had a crush on this guy in his 20s and 30s. So he's kind of there hanging out with him. James is not a straight guy. He's kind of interested in this guy who ends up killing him. So James decides to hit on him, like actually legitimately hit on him. Our killer gets very upset, and here's why. Because the killer, when I start talking with the killer later on in the dream, I get to know the killer and why it's so upsetting for him to get hit on by a man. Because our killer is an abuse victim, right? He's been through some crap as a kid, and this is very triggering for him. So he is very upset by the situation. So what happens? Well, they get in an argument. Our killer picks up a metal object. It's a hard metal object. It's right off like a dresser. I like envision him grabbing it off like a dresser top, wings it, bludgeons James to death. That's what happens. That's how James dies. Of course, our killer doesn't know what to do, so he gathers James up in some manner. I don't have all the details memorized or wrote down. I didn't remember those, but I remember him taking him out back and burying him. So James is buried in the backyard now because of our killer who was upset about getting hit on. That was my dream, right? So I have all this information, and we haven't still gotten to like the most exciting part. That's just what James is sharing with me. So I remember now the cop who actually ends up being a detective is still knocking on the door trying to get this killer to come out. He just wants to talk, right? He just wants to talk. He's trying to talk. So he decides to come on over. And the crazy thing is, when the detective's coming over, I can hear everybody that is at the house across the street from the killer's house telling me, do not talk about it. Like, everybody knows about this killer killing James, but nobody's willing to talk about it. They all know about it. Everybody's keeping it a secret. It's like, what's going on here? Okay. So I'm over here like, what do you guys, I've never been to this neighborhood. I actually have been to this neighborhood in my dreams because, like I said last week, locations in my dreams are real locations in real life. So I know exactly where this house is, exactly the location it is in real life. But we're not going to talk about that. I can't share that much detail. But so everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows what went on across the street. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody's talking to cops. Nobody's talking to the detective. And I'm freaking out like, we got to say something. Like, James is over there. Deceased spirit James has just told me what happened. So everyone knew, but nobody wanted to talk. So once the detective finally got across the street, he wanted to talk, and I was the first one to approach him. Like, I know what happened. James told me what happened. And of course, he looks at me like, what do you mean? James told you James is dead, or we think he's dead. We don't know where he's at. Well, James told me what happened. I know what happened. And everybody's telling me, don't talk, don't talk, don't talk, don't talk. Don't tell him. They even interrupt me, you know? And so I tell them, no, we have to tell them what, I'm going to tell them. So what ends up happening is they get so mad at me because I want to tell this, is they end up pushing me out of the way, just completely shove me away from the situation so I cannot tell this detective what is going on. So at this point, I'm at a distance. I'm trying to talk and tell the detective what had happened to James. How did he die? And I'm too far away. So I got pushed so far that I'm too far away. And so without having the detective at reach, instead, I put my focus back on the killer's house, and I sat there. And that's when I started to get to know who the killer is and the life that he had prior to his death or prior to his murder. And it talked about, how he, was prior exposed to bad stuff. And I'll say that since I'm on YouTube. And this is before you walked out the door, how attractive he was, and how charismatic he was, and a little bit about his personality. And I'm just like daydreaming about it in the dream. Like, I'm daydreaming. It's kind of messed up, right? Until he finally he decides to walk out the door. The killer comes out the door. So Killer comes out the door and he's very irate. He's calm and irate. Like you can feel that he's irate. Like the way he walks is kind of fast and irate, like angry walk, but he's not saying a lot. And he approaches the detective, and the detective, I could hear him. I couldn't hear all the words, but he's kind of trying to start to question him. Like, hey, where have you been? I've been trying to get a hold of you, blah, blah, blah. See where we're at. See, I wrote a couple pages about this. So this is where I actually kind of got in between. So I get in between the two guys and I start telling the detective what happened. At this point, everybody wants the killer to approach. Everybody kind of went back into the other house and I was able to approach. And I kind of start telling him about it. And this guy he locks eyes with me like so. How do I explain it? It's almost like he was glad somebody was speaking for him and explaining it, but he was mad because he knew what was going to happen if they knew the truth. So there were like mixed feelings when I made eye contact with this guy. So as we're doing this, the killer starts to back up, and the cop notices he's backing up, and the killer pulls out a gun, and this is where everything starts escalating. It started getting chaotic. The killer pulls out a gun, and he's like, I am not going with you, is what he kept saying. I am not going with you. And the detective didn't have a gun for some reason. And he was like, hold up, man, like we can talk about this, whatever. And this would probably never happen in real life, but we have all these people that were at the house and nobody was intervening. I was the only one standing out there still. So, I can see the detective is about to just like tackle this guy. And so at the same time, me and the detective tackle this guy. Basically, detective landed on him. I jumped on. Would never do this in real life, but in my dream, you bet I would. And that's when suddenly like all the cops showed up, and like it was SWAT, like somebody dropped down from a helicopter in the dream, and it was like just pure chaos after this intense moment of providing the information I needed to provide, and this guy flashing his gun like he's going to do something about it. So after the dream, well, not really after the dream, but right before the dream ended, when the chaos was all chaotic, it's like we got to the point of when they were arrested, and then what happened was like just calmness. So kind of the killer was escorted out, and then there was calmness. James obviously nodded at me, not obviously, but this does happen a lot in my dreams. When I dream about certain spirits that have been through a tragedy, they will nod at me and then leave, and that's when my dream ends. So to me, that's generally confirmation that their story got out. They had resolution, they had victory, they had I want to say comfort that what their story was had finally been released to the proper people that it needed to be. So that was my crazy dream last night. It was pretty chaotic, I will say. Hold on a second, guys. So I don't know about you guys, if any of you guys ever dream about murder victims or ever dream about spirits that need answering to. But I highly suggest, if you do ever have dreams like that, to definitely take them personally. If you're dreaming about what feels like a spirit that's coming to you, giving you a message, they want it passed on to either the proper people or shared in some manner, to definitely do so, because that will help bring them comfort. sometimes they confide in you just so they can talk to you. Especially mediums will have dreams of spirits that just want somebody to hear their story. They don't need to tell everybody their story. They just want somebody to hear it. So, or spirit is trying to teach you a lesson or teach you a way to react to something. So, kind of like a spirit guide. Um, so yeah, there's really like a lot of reasons spirits will come to you. So that was my dream. I will continue to document my dreams. Like I said, I'm going to start jotting down songs and see like their meanings behind some of these songs that I have noticed. Definitely start your dream journal, guys. It's really fun. It's really interesting because I can kind of take the dream and decipher it. That one, we're kind of out of time, so I'm not going to decipher the whole dream right now. Plus, I just had that dream last night, so I really have not had a moment to just sit down and really pull the pieces apart. Like, why was it this house? Why were we in this situation? Um, is it was it specifically showing me murder for some reason as opposed to like a theft? So various reasons why we would dream what we dream, whether they are just simple spiritual dreams, simple reference dreams to your everyday life, or if they are lessons or blessings, or um a blessing would be like a calming dream, like to bring you peace, just so you know if you're wondering. So those are things to kind of think about when you're dreaming. But we are about out of time today, guys. I do want to thank you all so much for jumping on here. I hope you enjoyed your tarot card pull. We will do that every week. As always, I will be back next Wednesday with another little chat. We can talk more about dreams. If there's any topic specifically, mediumship, intuition, manifestation, anything along those lines, I would love for you to put it down in the comments below what you would rather hear about. Or if you want to share your dream and we can decipher it together, we can definitely do that too, either in private or in public, on live on the show. Which might doing it live might be a problem because I'm going to ask probably some personal questions. So if we could do it on the side, you want to do that, let me know. So with that said, everybody, I do appreciate each and every one of you jumping in here. Everybody have a good night.